want you to do something for me. Look at your phone. Check the time. Maybe glance at the battery percentage up in the corner. Now, open your banking app, or, maybe don't, if you want to stay in a good mood.
Yeah, better to keep that one closed.
Right. But just look at the numbers. To us, living in the 21st century, those numbers are just tools, right? They're completely functional. A 5 is just a quantity.
It's a price tag. Or shoe size.
Exactly. A rating on a review site, it's just data.
It's cold, hard utility. I mean, it measures the world, but it doesn't really mean anything beyond the raw count.
But imagine for a second that we have it all wrong.
Yeah.
Imagine that a number isn't just a quantity. Imagine it actually has a personality.
A gender.
Yes.
A gender.
A divine mission.
Yeah.
Imagine that the number 2 is the most audacious, rebellious character in cosmic history. Or that the number 7 is a virgin goddess who absolutely refuses to mix with the other digits.
You are making math sound like a soap opera.
Well, according to the source we're covering today, it kind of is. We are taking a deep dive into a text from 1911 called Numbers, Their Occult Power and Mystic Virtues. And it's by William Wynn Westcott. And I want to be clear right off the bat, this is not a math lesson.
Definitely not.
No. This is an attempt to completely reprogram how we see reality.
And it is quite the attempt. Westcott is a really fascinating figure to lead this tour. He wasn't a mathematician in the way we'd think of one today.
Right.
He was actually a coroner by trade.
Which is wild.
Yeah, someone dealing with death and the physical body every single day. But his real passion was the esoteric. He was a supreme magus of the Rosicrucian Society of England.
Supreme magus. I feel like that's a title we really need to bring back.
It does sound like something straight out of a fantasy novel.
It really does.
Yeah.
But in 1911, this was very serious business.
Oh, absolutely serious. He was an archivist of the weird, essentially. His goal with this book was to collect what he called ancient, quaint, and occult learning.
Because he felt something was being lost.
Right. Exactly. He saw that the modern world, and remember, this is back in 1911, was already becoming hyper-obsessed with the material, measuring bridges, counting money. And in that process, we were losing the spiritual essence of the numbers themselves.
There he went digging.
He pulled from the Greeks, the Hebrews, the Hindus. He was trying to reconstruct a lost architecture of the universe where numbers were the actual bricks.
So our mission today is to walk through that architecture. We're going to profile the numbers 1 through 10 and a few scandalous ones later on, not as digits, but as living entities.
It's a whole cast of characters.
It is. But before we meet the cast, we have to understand the school that started it all. Because all roads in this book seem to lead back to one guy in a toga.
Pythagoras. You really cannot talk about the occult power of numbers without talking about the Pythagorean school.
We all know the theorem. A squared plus B squared
equals C squared.
Right. I think that's burned into everyone's brain from high school geometry. But Westcott paints a picture of a guy who was much more of a spiritual traveler than a math teacher.
Oh, without a doubt. The source details his travels. Egypt, Hindustan, Persia. He was learning from Brahmins and Hierophants. He wasn't just, memorizing formulas. He was learning how the universe vibrates.
And when he finally settled down in Crotona to open his school, it wasn't exactly a university.
No, it was a brotherhood. And the rules, they were incredibly strict.
Strict is putting it lightly. Westcott describes this as the silent school. Apparently, new members, they were called the acousmatikoi, had to keep a 5-year vow of silence.
5 whole years.
5 years. They weren't allowed to ask questions, they just had to listen. Can you even imagine a classroom today where you aren't allowed to speak for half a decade?
It sounds totally authoritarian to our modern ears, but think about the purpose behind it. They believed that to understand the divine nature of numbers, you had to crush the ego.
You couldn't just be debating to hear your own voice.
Right. You couldn't be arguing for the sake of it. You just had to absorb. Westcott highlights a phrase they use constantly, autosifa.
Which translates to what?
It translates to, he said it.
Referring to Pythagoras.
Yes. If the master said it, that was the proof. No peer review necessary.
That's convenient.
Very. But out of that intense, almost dogmatic discipline came some genuinely beautiful concepts. For example, their definition of friendship.
Oh, this was one of my favorite takeaways from the early chapters. They defined a friend as another I.
Which is very poetic, sure, but being Pythagoreans, they didn't just write a poem about it and call it a day. They proved it mathematically.
With amicable numbers.
Yeah.
This completely blew my mind when I read it.
It's a lovely piece of math. So let's take the numbers 220 and 284.
Okay, 220 and 284. To me, they look totally random.
They do, but if you find all the factors of 220, The numbers that divide evenly into it, like 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and so on.
Yeah.
And you add all those parts up, the sum is exactly 284.
Okay. And if you did the exact same thing for 284?
If you take all the parts of 284 and add them up, you get exactly 220.
Wow.
The parts of each generate the whole of the other. It's a mathematical metaphor for a perfect relationship.
That is surprisingly touching for arithmetic. It's like they are holding hands numerically.
He's very sweet.
But of course, it wasn't all friendship and harmony. There was a strict, almost jagged divide in their philosophy between odd and even numbers. And this is where I think modern listeners might bristle a bit.
It's definitely a product of its time, but it's crucial to understanding their system. To the Pythagorean mind, the universe is built on binaries, light and dark, good and evil.
And for numbers, odd and even.
Right. And they actually assign genders to them.
They did. Odd numbers were considered male. Even numbers were considered female.
But it goes way deeper than just labels. They viewed the odd numbers as the master numbers because they were considered limited and perfect.
Wait, limited was a compliment. Because usually we want to be unlimited. We want unlimited data, unlimited potential.
Not in ancient Greek thought. To them, the unlimited was chaotic. It was the void. It was completely undefined. Perfection was about having boundaries, form, definition.
So the odd number holds its shape.
Exactly. An odd number has a middle point. You can't cut it in half without slicing a unit right down the center. It was seen as strong.
And the even number?
It splits right down the middle into empty space. They saw that as receptive, yes, but also imperfect because it lacked that central indivisible core. It represented the dyad or duality, which they were highly suspicious of.
So where does the number 1 fit into all this? Is it the ultimate male number?
You would think so, but Westcott clarifies this. The one, the monad, is actually considered evenly odd.
Evenly odd.
Yeah, it is the energani. It contains both natures. It is the source of everything, so it can't be picked for a side. It is the board that the entire game is played on.
Okay, so that's the Greek flavor of the text.
Yeah.
But Westcott spends a huge chunk of this book on the Hebrew tradition too, the Kabbalah. And this seems to function almost like a secret code.
It is a code, and this is really crucial for you, the listener, to grasp. In English, we have letters A, B, C, and we have numbers 1, 2, 3. They're totally different systems.
We don't mix them up.
Right. But in Hebrew, and ancient Greek for that matter, there were no separate symbols for numbers. The letters were the numbers. Aleph is 1, Beth is 2.
Which means you literally cannot write a word without also writing a math equation.
Precisely. Every single grocery list was a numerical code. And this gave birth to gematria.
Gematria.
Yes. It's the art of interpreting scripture by calculating the numerical value of the words. The belief was that if two words have the same value, they must be mystically connected.
Westcott gives some wild examples of this. One that really stuck with me was the Messiah connection. It feels like a puzzle.
It's a classic example in the Kabbalah. There's a biblical prophecy, Shiloh shall come, Yabah Shiloh. If you add up the Hebrew letters in that phrase, you get the number 358.
Okay, 358.
Now take the Hebrew word for Messiah, Mashiach, that also adds up to exactly 358. So the math essentially confirms the prophecy.
But then there's a twist.
A big twist.
The serpent.
Nakash, the serpent that tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. Its numerical value, also 358.
Now wait a minute. Why would the ultimate savior, the Messiah, and the ultimate villain, the serpent, represent the exact same number? That seems like a massive contradiction.
A modern mind sees a contradiction, but the Kabbalistic mind sees a deep relationship. It implies that the Messiah and the serpent are players in the exact same cosmic drama.
Like they need each other.
Kind of, that the Redeemer comes specifically to heal the wound caused by the serpent. The number 358 binds the problem and the solution together. It suggests they are just two sides of one coin.
That is so deep. It's like a hypertext link between ancient concepts. You click serpent, and it immediately takes you to Messiah.
Exactly. They also use a method called Numerical, which is basically holy acronyms.
Right.
Take the word amen, we say it at the end of practically every prayer, but Westcott points out it's actually an acronym for Adonai Melech Namen.
Meaning the Lord and faithful King.
Right. So every time you say amen, you aren't just saying Roger that or I agree. You are invoking a very specific title of God.
It layers meaning onto absolutely everything. Nothing is just surface level with these guys.
Everything has depth.
Okay, let's get to the main event here. The cast of characters. We have the Pythagorean gender dynamics. We have the Kabbalistic codes. Now let's look at the personalities of the numbers themselves. Let's start with the monad, number 1. Westcott calls it the tower.
Because it stands alone. It represents the unchangeable God force. Just think about the math for a second. It's the only number that, if you multiply it by itself, absolutely refuses to change.
1 times 1 is still 1.
You can do it 1,000,000 times. It's stubborn stability.
Westcott also mentions it was called chaos, which confused me a bit. I thought 1 was supposed to be order.
It's chaos in the mythological sense, the void before creation.
Ah, okay.
Everything is packed inside the 1, but nothing is distinguished yet. You can't tell the sky from the ocean. To get any sort of definition, you need separation. You need the number 2.
The Dyad. And Westcott calls this number Audacity.
I love that label, Audacity, because it was the very first number brave enough to separate from the 1. It created the concept of the other.
But there's a price to pay for that bravery. Westcott associates 2 with misery.
He does.
That seems harsh for the number 2. This is trying to do its own thing.
But think about it philosophically. 2 is the beginning of duality. Subject and object. Me and you. Good and evil. You cannot have conflict with just 1. 2 introduces tension into the universe. It's the ultimate separation from the source. There's even folklore about this, like the Talmudic idea that Adam originally had 2 faces, or that Eve was made from the 13th rib, emphasizing this painful split.
So 2 is basically the rebellious teenager of the number family. When do we get some stability back?
With 3, the Triad. Westcott calls 3 the first real number.
Why wasn't 1 or 2 considered real?
Because 3 has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It bounds a space. If you put 2 dots on a page, you just have a line. If you put 3 dots, you have a triangle. You have a surface.
You have actual form?
Exactly. That's why 3 is the number of manifestation. The fates, the graces, these foundational concepts always come in 3s. The triangle was the mistress of geometry.
Then we hit 4, the Tetrad. And this seems like a massive deal for the Pythagoreans.
Oh, huge. They swore their sacred oaths by the holy Tetractus. This gets a bit abstract, but stick with me here. If you take the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you add them all together.
Let me do the mental math. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10.
And 10, as we'll see in a minute, is absolute perfection. So the number 4 contains the hidden seed of the perfect 10. It's the foundation.
Westcott also points out how grounded 4 is, the 4 winds, 4 seasons, 4 elements.
Yes.
The number of the physical earth, it's the table leg, it's total stability. He also connects it to the Tetragrammaton, right?
He does, the 4-letter name of deity, IHVH in Hebrew. And he points out how almost every ancient culture used a 4-letter word for God. Greek is theos, Latin is deus, German is God. 4 represents that grounded divinity.
Okay, moving up. 5, the Pentad. Westcott calls this the marriage number.
Simple math here. Remember the genders we talked about earlier?
2 is female, 3 is male.
Right. 2 is the first female number. 3 is the first male number. 2 plus 3 equals 5.
Marriage.
It's the union of the sexes. That's exactly why the pentagram, the 5-pointed star, was seen as a symbol of life and health and safety. It was used to ward off evil spirits because it represented a complete, living, dynamic union. Plus, it stands right in the middle of the decade, numbers 1 through 10.
And 6, the Hextad. He calls it the perfection of parts.
This is just pure math beauty. 6 is unique. Its factors are 1, 2, and 3. And if you add 1 plus 2 plus 3...
You get 6?
It's equal to the sum of its parts, which is incredibly rare for a number under 10. Westcott connects this to the perfect structures of the natural world, the honeycomb, the snow crystal. He calls it the form of form.
But he also mentions a massive time cycle here called the Naros.
The 600-year cycle, yes.
Yeah.
He claims the ancients tracked secret astronomical history in these massive 600-year blocks. It implies that history isn't just a straight line. It has a rhythm, a heartbeat that resets every 6 centuries.
Now, number 7, the Heptad. I feel like 7 is the celebrity of the number world. Everyone picks it as their favorite number.
And the ancients absolutely knew it was special. They called it Minerva, the virgin goddess.
Why a virgin specifically?
It's about the math again. Look at the numbers 1 through 10. 7 is the ultimate outsider. It doesn't produce any other number in that set. Like, you can double 2 to get 4 or 3 to get 6, but you can't double 7 without falling off the edge of the 10.
Right, you get 14.
Exactly. And it isn't produced by any other number either. Nothing multiplies to make 7.
It's prime.
It's extremely prime. Westcott says it is motherless and childless. It just stands totally apart. That's why it's the holy number, the number of fate.
He also maps this onto the human body, right? He says we change in 7-year cycles.
Yes, the biological rhythms. Teeth coming in at 7, puberty at 14, a full beard at 21, peak physical strength at 28. Even critical days in an illness were tied to the 7th day. They didn't see these as coincidences. They saw them as the literal imprint of the 7 on our bodies.
Let's speedrun the high numbers. 8. The Ogdoad.
The first cube, 2 times 2 times 2. It represents justice because it's so evenly divided. All things are 8, they used to say. But Westcott mentions a really weird superstition here that a child born in the 8th month cannot live.
Yeah, that stood out to me. The 7th month is fine, the 9th month is fine, but the 8th is fatal. That sounds, scientifically dubious.
Oh, extremely dubious. But it traces right back to the gender thing. 8 is evenly even. It's pure female energy in their view, lacking that odd male spark of vitality found in the 7 or the 9. They genuinely thought it was too passive to survive. It shows how committed they were to their theory, even against biological reality.
Yeah, and 9. The horizon.
Because it's the very last digit before you hit the boundary and restart at 10. It was associated with Prometheus, the ascent of fire. But my absolute favorite part is the ocean analogy.
Because numbers flow through it.
Because it's indestructible. Check this out. Multiply any number by 9, any number at all.
Okay. Let's do 9 times 6. That's 54.
Now add the digits of the result together. 5 plus 4.
9.
Try a bigger one, just a random one.
Okay, 9 times 13. That is 117. 1 plus 7 is, it's 9.
It always returns to itself. Just like water finding its level, you literally can't get rid of it. It moves around everything.
Which brings us finally to 10, the decade.
The return to unity. 1 and 0 brings you back to 1. It contains absolutely everything, the entire universe. And Westcott makes a very practical point here. The decimal system arises quite simply because we have 10 fingers.
Yes.
Right. If we had 12 fingers, the sacred math of the universe would look completely different.
It's the cosmos shaped directly by our anatomy.
Literally.
Now, Westcott doesn't stop at 10. We really have to address the bad numbers, the ones Westcott says we've completely misunderstood. Let's talk about the number everyone fears, 666.
The number of the beast.
But Westcott has a very different take on this. He doesn't see it as satanic, per se.
No, he sees it as solar. It relates to the magic square of the sun. Imagine a grid of numbers 1 through 36. If you add up every single number in that square, the total is exactly 666.
So 666 is just the total value of the sun.
It represents the raw, overwhelming power of the sun. He connects it to the spirit Sorath. It's not evil like a villain in a movie. It's dangerous, like a nuclear reactor is dangerous. It's unchecked, scorching power.
So it's the heat that burns you if you get too close.
Yeah.
And there's a counterbalance to it, right?
Yes. The number 888. In Greek gematria, the name Jesus ή Isus adds up to exactly 888. The idea is that the spiritual sun, 888, redeems or balances the physical, scorching sun of 666. It's a cosmic balancing act, not just a horror movie trope.
That makes so much more sense. And quickly, 13, the unluckiest number. We avoid the 13th floor in hotels. We skip it in airplane rows.
It's a total PR disaster for a number. But Westcott points out that in the ancient Kabbalah, 13 was sacred. The word for love, ahiba, equals 13. The word for unity, achad, also equals 13.
So if you live in apartment 13, you're actually living in the apartment of love and unity.
According to the Kabbalah, yes. He also notes that Mexican and Yucatan calendars used weeks of exactly 13 days. The unlucky tag is a much later superstitious invention.
We really need to reclaim 13. And what about 11? Westcott seemed to have a real beef with 11.
11 is the sinner. It oversteps the 10 Commandments, but it falls short of the perfect 12, the 12 tribes, the 12 apostles. It's stuck in this awkward middle ground of excess and imperfection. It just can't win.
Poor 11. So, zooming out here, we've gone from the silent schools of Pythagoras to the hidden codes of the Hebrew Bible. What is the big takeaway for you? Because obviously we aren't going to start calculating the gematria of our grocery receipts tomorrow.
I think the core takeaway is about enchantment. We live in a very disenchanted world today. A number is just a price tag or a statistic. But for the ancients, the world was completely alive with meaning. They looked at a triangle and saw a divine face. They looked at the number 4 and literally felt the stability of the earth.
It totally changes the way you look at the mundane. It adds a layer of color to a black and white world.
Exactly. Westcott is inviting us to re-enchant our view of reality, to see that there might actually be patterns and personalities hidden in the framework of the everyday.
It leads to a provocative thought Westcott mentions near the end that really stuck with me. He says the monad, the number 1, is the mind. But the dyad, the number 2, is science.
Right. Because science inherently requires separation, observer and observed. You can't analyze something if you are completely one with it. You have to step back, and the moment you step back, you create 2.
And look at us now. We live in the digital age. Everything we do is binary code. 0 and 1.
We are living in the absolute dominion of the dyad, the ultimate separation.
So the question I want to leave you with is this. Are we trapped in the audacity of the two, separated from the source? Or are we using this binary code to slowly build a new kind of unity?
That is exactly the question the numbers are asking us, and honestly, I don't think we've calculated the answer just yet.
On that heavy note, I'm going to go count my fingers and just appreciate the number 10. Thank you for guiding us through this weird and wonderful text.
My pleasure entirely.
And to you, listening, thanks for taking the plunge. Keep looking for the magic in the math. We'll see you in the next deep dive.